Hello there. I have just finished the Stanislaw Lem science fiction story called The Invincible. I wrote a post about it a little while back on Facebook because I was still into it, reading it, but I've got to the end of it, and I have to say, I think I'm just discovering Stanislaw Lem. A few months back, I read Solaris, having seen both the films. I thought I'd give the book a go, and the book was just so much more superior. It blew me mind. But I've already said that. So as you know, bearing in mind I'd enjoyed that story, I thought I'll have a little look at some more Stanislaw Lem stories, and I've come across this Invincible. And it's about a spaceship called the Invincible, and they are searching for a missing ship, a sister ship called the Condor, that's gone missing on this planet called Regis III. And it begins with the ship, the ship coming out, into the this system, the Regis system, and the third planet obviously is Regis III, and it's landing on this desert-like planet, and it's really got a good feel. The writing's really good. And when it lands, the crew are obviously going to try and find what's happened to the previous explorational expedition on exactly the same ship called the Condor. And they're quite struck with things when they land. I think there's something like about 14% or 16% oxygen on the planet, but there's 4% of methane, and they can't understand I'm no biologist or chemist or anything, but evidently this is all very strange, and it's causing sort of like a lot of puzzlement. And as they go out in their craft, like copters going over and all these other type of mobile things, explorational vehicles going out to search, are taking samples here, there, and everywhere, and they discover that there's lots of there's these metal constructions, look like an ancient civilization made of metal struts that had all rotted away, and it's sort of virtually unrecognizable, all these metal things in the area. And they find that there's no life on the land and everything, but then strangely there's carbon life in the sea, fish life in the seas, the various seas and everything. But there's no algae up against the coastline, everything, there's nothing, it's just dead. But then within the water, all of the carbon life, the fish type things that live in the water, are all diving down to escape from the surface. They're very susceptible to the probes, the electronic probes, and all the life seems to be very wary of anything outside of the water. And then it turns out that they're discovering all these microbes and things, like little nanite microbes and so on, and they realise they start studying things, and they realise there's been some sort of catastrophic war on the surface of the planet, and that once upon a time there was carbon life, but it's been eliminated by an AI, an artificial intelligence, mechanical microbes, or machines and robots and things. They've destroyed everything. And then there has been another war between the big robotic things and the little minute nanites, and the little minute nanites have won the overall battle. And as the thing goes on, the big metal constructions that they see are really had once been type of metal forests that are made out of metal, and everything's metal. Even the bushes and the shrubs are made of metal. They're an alloy that grow out of crevices and things like that as they're walking around. Like this desert planet with shrub, it's metal shrub. And they eventually find the Condor with its missing crew, and they begin to discover they're all dead. They discover all sorts of weird things, and as they're looking up these bodies, they realise that they've starved to death, and they're like, some of them are laying in the desert near the ship, all starved to death, and the people actually inside the ship of the Condor, they're all dead as well, but they've died of starvation. But there's food everywhere in the ship, and there's all these conundrums coming up. But it turns out that there's these little tiny fly-type insects, almost like three-legged starfish, but they're minute, and there's billions and billions of them. And when they on their own, they're just like little gnats. They're mechanical, little tiny nanite mechanic things, and they say that they're the offshoot, the adaptations or the evolution of the robotic things from an alien intelligence that crash landed on the planet millions of years ago. The aliens had died off, and what was left of the machines and everything that the aliens had, they started adapting themselves and started becoming at one with the environment, and obviously had these wars with the carbon life forms that lived there and defeated them. And then there was a war between the nanite robots and the bigger robots, and this is all being discovered as it goes along the story, and it's quite intriguing. And but when they what they have also found is that these little nanites, they all link together. When they all link together, they become this great big cloud, this big collective intelligence. Like they all link together like a little net, little tiny net, and it can all, you know, like when you see starlings in the sky, big masses of them all twisting and flocks all turning, and this is what these little tiny nanite things do, and they form these huge, great big clouds. But there's billions upon billions of them, and they're all linked. All their little three legs are linked like this great big giant net that's twisting and turning all the time. And when they feel threatened by anyone or that lets off pulses, they attack, and they get into your head and they erase your they don't actually get inside. I don't think they actually get inside here, but when they swarm around you, they send out some sort of radio waves in mass, like, you know, you've been surrounded by all these little gnats, like a swarm of miniature flies, and they erase your memory, take all your memory from you, and they don't kill you, you're just left there, and you're like a little newborn baby. You've got to learn all over again, you know. They have to, for those that survive these swarms, they have to get them back to the ship if they're still alive. But it's taken them weeks, and they're just like little children again, little baby infants, learning how to talk and walk and everything. It's so bizarre. It really is weird. And if you just left, when all these people in the other thing got hit by them, they were like all these little babies in spacesuits wandering around, not knowing how to access food and just dying out in the desert. But it's a very clever story, because Stanislaw Lem likes strange types of extraterrestrial intelligence. In the Solaris film, it was this huge, great big sentient ocean that used to react to or respond to attempts at communication and do weird things. And it's the same thing with this. It's more hostile, though. I mean, it's openly more hostile because it feels threatened by anything. And this swarm of nanites, when they're all linked together, it's this gigantic collective intelligence, and it just attacks anything. And as the story develops, they're finding out more and more and what they can and can't do, and they eventually they have to, you know, they've found out what's happened to the Condor. They've got so many of their own people that have either been killed. They've got force fields around their ship that's landed, and that's where it becomes a little bit like the Forbidden Planet, you know, when they had that force field round, but this swarm was trying to get in past the force field, and they're hitting it, and it's killing these little nanite things. So they're so easily to kill, but there's billions of them, and when they're hitting the force field, it's just causing all this electronic sort of sphere. It's just they're dying in their millions, but it doesn't matter. They keep coming back, and they send an unmanned tank, you know, like a big wheeled unmanned explorational tank, and it's got an antimatter gun on it, and as it fires at these clouds, it sort of like disperses around all of them and brings them down in their millions. But still, it's just, this thing keeps coming back at them. And during one thing, one of the main characters in it is a man called Rowan, and when his convoy gets, or his explorational group get ambushed by all these nanite things that come at them, that most of them are incapacitated in a way that their memories are taken, and they're just like little newborn babies, not, you know, in their spacesuits, just sitting around all dumbfounded, and he's got to sort of get them all back in the ship to get them back home. But it's really hard to describe. He doesn't get attacked because he loses all sort of, like, during this attack, he just can't, he just goes calm and in a surreal sort of way, and he's just given up. So evidently he doesn't get so scared and excited, and they don't see him as a threat, all these nanites, so he gets away with it. And that's one little thing, but it's really clever, because they do come to this conclusion in the end that this planet is not for them. You know, they've got to leave. They can't fight all this, but they've found out what's happened to the survey team. But there's all these explorational sort of incidents as they're going out while all this is happening, and they're discovering all these things bit by bit. And it's a very clever science fiction film. No, not film, science fiction novel. So that's the second Stanislaw Lem book that I've read, and I would highly recommend it. I've obviously thrown in a lot of spoilers there, so obviously sorry about that. But you know what I'm like. But it is it's a terrific novel to read. There's lots of things in it, technical things that I haven't mentioned that everyone can pick up on, but it's well worth a read. And because I'm so impressed with it, I'm going to read another one of his novels now, which is called His Master's Voice by Stanislaw Lem, and it's about people on Earth getting this encrypted alien extraterrestrial code message. I suppose they pick it up via their satellites or something, and they've got to decipher it. They've managed to get a whole novel out of that, and I think I might enjoy that, because it's like with Quatermass and its archaeological dig, I remember really enjoying that, and I'm going to wonder how they're going to make a whole story out of receiving this message and deciphering it. So that's another good one. Stanislaw Lem seems to have a thing about extraterrestrial contact, but in a strange way. He tries to make it so that it's really not the way we visualize things, but in a different, topsy-turvy, upside down type of sentience that we wouldn't imagine, that he seems to invent. And I'm wondering if this new message thing, this next book with the message, His Master's Voice, will be good. Anyway, I'm drifting off the subject. Stanislaw Lem and his the Invincible novel. The Invincible's the name of their ship. Give that a go, because it's terrific. Anyway, best of luck.